and change you'll ever get is from God. It's going to come from the Lord, or it's not going to come at all. It's going to come when you admit that you can't do it and that you've got to have His help.
Those who are watching the James Webb Telescope and some of the footage that comes back, some of the more prominent scientists are convinced that we have a designer. Because what they're finding out, celestial mechanics, is that they were so far off on certain formulas that science has been turned over on its head. It takes about 4 to 7 years for them to publish the new information. But there are too many people now convinced that creation is real, that there's one designer, and this one designer designed everything following his own pattern, its own pattern. Well, we know they're talking about the Father. Because to understand the cosmos is to understand the body. To understand the body is to understand any component in creation itself. CERN operates off of one concept. You all know the first side of this concept is Fibonacci. I need not go any further, but that's how they operate. Isn't that amazing? That the formulas, these complicated mathematical formulas, run in a pattern, in a sequence that begins with something very old, something found in nature. Same pattern found in nature, same pattern found everywhere. Where you're dealing with very tiny components that are structured and ordered in a specific way, kind of like the weather, you find out that things are highly predictable, and nothing is random. There's no such thing as random. Random, in fact, is a misunderstood term that describes something that we cannot assign in order to, but all things in creation have order. So when it comes to extra entities out there, you're talking about the spiritual realm. This craft that people see they can wink out of existence, well, unless you have a good pair of NVGs, night vision goggles. They have to have the phosphorus type, but where everything is green. If you have a good pair of night vision goggles, the heavens are alive, essentially. Everything is moving up there, always. Why? Because God assigned watchers. You guys know what watchers are? The small case in point here. Are watchers good or bad? Somebody tell me. Of course, there's lots of media out there that says what? The watchers fell. A watcher is a title, and they're called watchers because they were given a specific duty of watching over the earth to intercede for mankind. A watcher is like saying you're a guard at Post Alpha, or guard at Post Echo, or Post Delta, right? You're simply a guard. The watchers that fell were replaced. You can see those in the book of Daniel. You can see there are new watchers appointed in the book of Daniel who actually communicated something about King Nebuchadnezzar. The watchers made their decree because God has given them charge over things of this planet. And do you guys know that, like nuclear weapons, volcanic eruptions, and things that happen that are real terrible, right before every major catastrophe, the watchers are spotted every single time. They stop things. People have found that out in war all the time. In war, men cannot do what they want to do. So never think that somehow somebody's going to overpower God's decree. They can't do that. God gave darkness room to move, and we were told to stay in a certain path in life. Now, when we're learning what darkness actually is, we venture into known areas of darkness that God is very careful to watch. And things are careful to watch. If you ever give yourself over to darkness, that's when you find out that darkness is far darker than you ever thought possible. In fact, right now, you may think you know what darkness is. But the truth is, until you become part of that darkness, you don't really understand exactly what it is. Just like folks who do witchcraft and things like that, even on the surface, when they go deeper than the surface, they find out how dark thing can actually get, and they always come out with some warning. Now, if they're just playing with that subject, that's when they're mouthy about it. But when they find out the consequences, these irrevocable consequences that they end up, finding themselves in, that's when they tell everybody to leave it alone. True darkness is scary to every single human being. But God, He allows darkness to work within specific areas He told us to stay out of. I can see the truth of that. Because if we ever ventured into an area that would destroy our souls, wouldn't we want something there to bite us? Because imagine people, if they weren't warned, if they never knew about darkness, they get up to the end of time where they have eternal separation from the Father. What would they say? If God didn't tell them anything, they would say, well, why didn't you chop my legs off? Why didn't you make me suffer? Why didn't you, make me suffer terribly, where I would back away from the darkness? Why didn't you show me what darkness truly was so that I could actually get out? Is that what happens in our lives? We do things with consequences, right? And when these consequences come, we don't like them, but they do come. And every time they do come, we start changing our ways. There are people who with a straight face, they'll tell you, I'm not doing anything wrong. That's what they'll say. They stay in that circumstance for years, and then there's a point where they wake up and say, you know what, I was doing things wrong. I was just too high-minded to admit it. Let me leave it alone. When it really begins to hurt, we start making decisions to back away from darkness. We start saying, I don't want to be a part of that. That's what happens. We actually determine that we want nothing to do with that darkness, and that's when we start straightening out our lives. Until we hit that point, though, all too often, we keep doing things the same way over and over and over again. And it further diminishes our lives. And it will get worse and worse, but eventually a person will say, that's enough. I want nothing to do with that, because they'll become disgusted by the darkness they were part of. Do you not know that's identification as to who you really are? So that means some people have to go very deep into darkness so they can find out they want nothing to do with that darkness. Some people do. They have to be immersed in darkness. That's why judging somebody that's in that type darkness like that, what good is that going to do? It won't do any good. It won't do good at all. You can encourage the person, but passing judgment or something like that, and we all do it, whether you realize this or not, we all pass judgment mentally. Every single day of our lives, we pass judgment. If you look at a person and say, well, that person should know better, well, what is that? That's judgment. That's what that is. That you're thinking, the way you interpret this person. We know that's judgment. But the truth is this: if we could take the span of our lives and smash it down to 1 second, not one soul could judge another. Why? Because we all change. And it takes circumstances to make us change. We don't change by ourselves. We make decisions. That's how we change. And decisions come about when you are immersed in situations. Then you start seeing, you start feeling and seeing, and you experience what happens in that situation until you reach the point where you will either embrace it or say, I don't want any parts of this. And you turn totally around. That's why most of us went straight to Christ, didn't we? In truth, we did. We were in bad situations. And you know what we said? We said, this is not me. I don't belong here. And so we turned back to Christ, didn't we? But we only did that. Why? Because we found out the truth of darkness. Consequently, that's why truth is so important. God's truth is supreme. That's why it's so important. Because if we are not exposed to the truth of darkness and just the lie, see, the lie of darkness makes it seem like it's paradise, not darkness. Only when you are immersed in darkness do you find out that darkness is not where you want to be. Just like a demon. If a demon could go to heaven, they would not want to stay. So never try to understand those entities in darkness. They don't want redemption. The same way you walk around and you get sad because no one loves you, they get sad because no one attempted to murder them. You can't wrap your head around that. They are the opposite of love and light. So never try to understand darkness. I used to hear a lot of people say, I feel so sorry for the fallen angels. Why? They don't even think like you do. And if you go back and you read in the book of Enoch and Jasher and all these other books, they didn't ask for forgiveness. They wanted God to allow their children to have eternal life somewhere. And God said, no way. They're not going to be granted eternal life. The fallen angels, they did not feel sorry for themselves. They didn't cry when they were chained. They had a heart for their own children, just like one murderer would have a heart for the other murderers in his gang. Same way. Just like one terrorist will have a heart for other terrorists. It's the same thing. That's camaraderie, right? That's a type of twisted camaraderie. But that's the way it is. They don't want, they're not seeking repentance. Satan does not want to be forgiven. Do you think, I honestly believe that if Satan was sane, if he wasn't so full of darkness, and consequently, was he full of darkness from the beginning? He was full of something else, and it wasn't darkness. It's something that gives birth to darkness. He was proud. And what is proud, by the way? Satan saw himself better than everybody else around him. That's where it begins. When you think yourself better than everybody else around you, the world teaches you that's the way you are to be. You are to be the best. You're to be that's what the world constantly teaches every single day. That's exactly, that's the mindset of Satan himself. Somebody says the watchers beg for forgiveness for their sons, for their sons, for their sons. You have to read that again. They wanted their sons to continue continue. They cried for their children. They wanted their children to continue. So when they begged and Enoch was told, look, God said, Enoch, you tell them I'm not taking their petition. And they did beg, they were begging, and then when it discloses what that petition was about, they were asking for some pass for their children. They wanted their children to have eternal life. That's what they were begging for. They wanted their kids to have eternal life. They knew what they were getting into on Mount Hermon. Wasn't it Semyaza and Azazel? All those fallen, they knew what they were getting into. Those chiefs of 10, which led to other ones. Satan is the same way. You never read about Satan asking for forgiveness, begging for forgiveness, do you? The fallen angels, they wanted their children to. That's why they came to women anyway. You know what the Bible says? It saw that the daughters of women, that they were fair, right? That they were fair. You know what that means? When you look at that word fair, it doesn't mean that they were just so attractive they couldn't hold themselves back. That's not what it means. It's almost like you're seeing someone as being compatible. Let's go to another part of the New Testament and see what else it says, because you hear these different descriptions that talk about the same thing, but they give you a context. They say, listen, life is going to be going on as normal, like in the days of Noah. Marrying and giving into marriage, that's the term. Those are two different things. Marrying and giving into marriage are two different things. Eating and drinking is a very specific term. That's for the Gentiles, or let's just say the heathen. Eating and drinking. It describes a civilization who seems to be primarily concerned about themselves, which is day-to-day business. See, I hear a lot of people, they read these descriptions, it's going to be like the days of Noah, and there were big monsters in the earth, this, that, and the other. But the context describing how it's going to be like the days of Noah are right here in the Bible. God never mentioned it's going to be like the days of Noah when they were trying to swim and get up to the surface of the water to catch their breath. That's not what's here, is it? It said it's going to be like the days of Noah. It said, for as in the days of Noah, as it was in the days of Noah before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying, giving into marriage. They did this until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be, which means it's going to be business as usual until the flood comes, which means they're not going to notice too much. They're not going to get the signs that most think they're going to get. It's going to be like today. This is giving us the greatest hint we could ever see. Listen, because it's talking about what? It's talking about the coming of the Son of Man. My goodness. It's not talking about the end of the world. It's not talking about the days of wrath. It's talking about the coming of the Son of Man. We're specifically talking about the coming of the Son of Man, who is Christ Jesus. We're not talking about any other episode. We're not talking about the wrath. We're not talking about the end of the world. We're not talking about the great chastisement. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the coming of the Son of Man. And it's giving us a description. So if the world is in shambles, how in the world can anybody marry and give into marriage, eat and drink? So we know that conditions are going to be just like they are right now, don't we? Which means no big indicators to the world that Jesus is coming. Zero big indicators. They're going to be doing what they want to do just like now. So this is society. So what this is telling, what this is communicating, this Bible reads that society is going to be just like it is right now with no major changes, like it is right now when Jesus comes. It's not talking about any other event. It's talking about the coming of the Son of Man. So we have two things here. We have recognition. Everybody will recognize him. Why do you think those in Revelation hated God so much? Because I'll tell you something. If Jesus came to this earth and he told people, you don't belong to me, when they finally know he's real, because they needed all that proof, I want you guys to put yourselves in the shoes of the people who have a hard time believing. Put yourselves in their mindset for a minute. They're doing things around the earth they don't want to accept it because they don't have enough proof. They don't want to give up everything that they have because they don't have enough proof. And I'll tell you something, the more you stand to lose in this earth, the more proof you're going to need. You're going to need proof. That's like somebody were to say, if a weather person came up and said, listen, I know you just had this house built. I know you have it just the way you want, but you got to get up and go. Now, this is a weather guy saying you got to get up and go because in 5 days a tornado is going to hit this house. You would say, stop. I'm going to need more than your word on this. I've invested everything in this house and all the goods in this house. I cannot just get up and leave this house because you think a tornado is coming. I need to see proof. That's how it works. because you have something to protect. You're going to need more and more proof. Well, this is how the world is. The world is like this. The world is saying, well, I can't give up. Going out and having my good time, watching my movies I choose to watch, serving myself. I can't do this until I have enough proof. And so what's going to happen is they're going to need that proof. But when the Messiah comes, we were just told, just like people recognize lightning, just like lightning coming out of the east, shining, it says, unto the west, just shining. It didn't say makes a thunderous noise or anything. It said just shining. That same recognition, just like everybody can see that, and they know what that is. They have a recognition that, hey, it's lightning. They will recognize the Messiah. That's why it says every eye will see him. How will every eye see him? Even those that pierced him. How? Because of recognition. That's how. So the emphasis is not on how he's coming back. The emphasis is on recognition. They're going to recognize him. And when these people who needed more proof recognize him, and they know in their hearts and their soul and every fiber of their being, and they say, that is the Messiah. And then when he looks at them and he says, I don't know you, they're going to be so offended. Listen to me. They're going to be, you haven't seen a person more hateful and offended and let down and everything else. Now, they're not following him right now. They're even persecuting people who believe in him. But what often happens is when you don't have enough proof, you convince yourself in your own heart that you're still this good person. You don't have enough proof. You didn't investigate anything about the Word of God because you can't do that. People have to show you proof. If they show you proof, you'll change your whole lifestyle. But until they show you proof, you're not going to change a thing because you've invested too much in the world. Your heart is in the world. So when Jesus comes and they do recognize him and they say, my goodness, that is the Messiah, but he didn't want anything to do with him, how do you think they're going to feel? They're going to hate the word Christian. They're going to hate every Christian. Everybody who mentions his name, they're going to hate him. Why? Because it's almost like having a blind date and the person gave you a promise to really take care of you. You go and meet the person, right? Because you didn't buy everything they said, but once you see it, you like what you see. And then when they see you, they turn their back on you. That's called a letdown. That's how these people are going to feel. So they have no faith in him right now because they don't have proof. Then they're going to feel let down when he turns away from them. Because he's not coming for them. He's coming for his body he prepared in the earth of whatever generation he comes in. But he's not coming for them. He's coming for the faithful. Now, when they see him, recognize him, and it clicks in their minds, my goodness, that is the Messiah. For him to turn away would be a devastation of top devastations. That will be the true beginning of torment for them, won't it? Can you imagine how terrible they're going to feel? Consequently, this is why we have a work to do in the gospel of Jesus Christ. I don't know about you, but that doesn't settle right in my spirit knowing this. If it happens with normal people every single day and people are let down to the point where they will go and kill themselves, what do you think is going to happen when people absolutely 100% know it's the Messiah, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and he wants nothing to do with them? How terrible are they going to feel? That's why the gospel must go out as a witness, not for everybody to accept, but as a witness, it must be preached to the four corners of the earth. As a witness, God never said anything about everybody accepting it. He said as a witness, but that doesn't sit well with me. You know why? Another side note, because there was a time when I was younger, I didn't always pay attention to those things of the Lord. He could have came back during that time when I was young, and I would have been one of those. He would have said, I don't know you. Do you really think I would just let that happen to just anybody out there? No. So guess what? Out of every 10,000 people, there's one that sincerely needs him. Do you guys know how that works? I'll describe it briefly, then we're back to this. You have one person that's looking for one specific type of light. They're in New York City, and imagine everybody's on the streets in New York, but there's one person looking for a specific type of light. So everybody's looking around and everybody's finding all sorts of things, but this one person is in sorrow because they're looking for one specific type of light. And then here comes one of you with the gospel. As you come with the gospel, they see a light shining, and they're jumping up and down because they're short, trying to look over the crowds, and they're seeing that light. You know, when you're walking close to something, how a light can bounce up and down. You see it, and then you don't. You see it, and then you don't. And this person's like, I see it, I see it. And they're trying to break through the crowds and everything because they're saying, that has to be the light. I can feel that light. I'm going to that light. So they're walking to you. You walk to them. They can see your light. But then all too often, something happens. You're carrying the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is your light, and somebody sees it. They haven't reached you yet, but they can see it. But then something happens in your life, and you stop shining that light to go and take care of your problems. That person who saw that light can't find that light anymore. They're saying, where'd that light go? I could see that light. I could feel that light, and that light's not here. They see other people with dimmer lights and different lights. That's not the light they're looking for. They're looking for a specific light, and that light is found within the one they are to receive the word from, and it's you, but they can't see it. And they start getting hopeless, and all of a sudden you get over your problems, you start shining that light again, and they get overjoyed because they can see that light again. And they start breaking through the crowds. They're doing everything they can do to get to you night and day. I'll tell you right now, that's how it truly is. Not everybody can receive of everybody, but there's always someone you can receive of. And just imagine if that someone stopped shining the light, what would have happened to your world? See, God sent you here for somebody else. Do you know that? You're a light in this world, just like that. And if you go down, that light goes out. Where does that leave the one who was appointed to receive from you? I know it's heavy, but that's just the way it is. If your light stops shining, where are they going to go? And before you think you're not that important, then why has God spared your life through all of these situations up until this very day? And why are you learning about the Most High? Because you're shining a light. Somebody said in the chat room the other day, what can I do for the body of Christ? You're doing it. Just stay on course. You have no idea who's receiving from you. You have no idea. All you need to do is represent in truth, and your light is shining. It's important that your light shine because somebody's depending on that. You know, in my life, it was one person, one individual spoke something, and it stuck with me my entire life. And you know what? That person has no idea that it was them that sent me on the course of a lifetime. That person has no idea. And I'm telling you right now, you likely have no idea who is looking at you just like that. Just like you guys, somebody in your life has spoken something positive to you, who told you that you could do it, and everybody else said you couldn't. But this one person you received it from, they made the difference in your life, didn't they? The one person, and they likely don't even know it. They didn't give you some big speech. That's not what they did. It could have been something as simple as, you're pretty smart. Hope you continue with that. Hope you keep going. You keep going. It could be as simple as that. But somebody made a difference in your life. And do you know that person was sent here? And they were put on your path at that specific time to give that specific word. And didn't you think about it? How many times did you think about it? How many times did you rehear that voice saying that same thing to you? That gave you courage to take another step, and another step, and another step. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a person who spoke to you about the Lord either. It does not. It could be simply somebody who told you that you can do it. But it meant everything because it came from that person. Don't try to understand the dynamics of it. Forget about that because you can't do that. That means in somebody's life, you've probably spoken something you're not aware of, something that made the difference in somebody's life already. When you stay the course, that's when you do things like that. It's not up to us to know every time that happens with us. If we stay true to the course, God will use us just like He used so many others for the sake of our brethren. And if you fall, what happens to those people? You know why murder is so bad? Do you guys know why murder is so bad? Because you don't just murder one person, you murder an entire generation. Do you know that? You're not killing one person, you're killing everything that would have come from that person. When you discourage, you're not just discouraging the one person, you're killing an entire generation of people that were appointed to come through that one individual. Can you see how training of the world, this propaganda of the world can blind you to these simple spiritual principles? What's really happening? It can blind you to the point of numbness where you don't even think about it. You think it's no big consequence. I don't matter. People say things like that, don't they? Yes, you do matter, or you would not have life. There's a difference in seeing this world through spiritual eyes and through carnal eyes. And for the most part, people see things through carnal eyes. That's what the world accomplishes. So all of what they've given you, they have caused you, and they caused me, a great blindness. When you're blind, it's very difficult to see the smallest truths. But that blindness can be broken. That blindness and what caused it can be severed, and full sight can be restored. Sobriety is a result. You're not meant to stay blind. But can you see that with the world? How their concepts, constant programming, constant imaginations expressed in movies and books and other forms of media. Can you see how that can blind a person, numb a person? Can you see that? Take note about Satan. Satan does not care if anybody goes to church. Satan cares if you believe the word. He didn't care if you go to church. He didn't care if you go to church and sit there and you're sitting there listening to the pastor, but you're also looking at somebody else and you're thinking about the ball game, right? And you're looking at everybody's clothes and then you're judging everybody who walks in that's not fit the way you think they should be fit. And then somebody over here catches the Holy Spirit. You start thinking about these comedy people who make fun of the Holy Spirit. He didn't care if you do that. He cares if you believe the word. Because if you believe the word, you become part of the word. Because you're authorized to carry the authority of that word and walk around with it in this earth. That's what he cares about. He don't want you getting in the way of what he's doing. Going to church is not going to get in his way. That's not going to get in his way. Those who follow these false Christs and false prophets are going to be in church too. They're in church right now. They're listening to people who sat up there and said that Jesus Christ, well, I think there are many ways to the Father. Isn't that what they say? Oh, just love everybody. That's all you have to do. Wrong. Because even the fallen angels love their children. They love the demons they created in the earth. The fallen angels did. Even demons love demons. How about that? Because that's a twisted, perverted type of love, a love I'm not familiar with. Conditional love, that's not love either. No, that's maneuvering. That's planning. That's manipulation. Any type of conditional love is not love at all. It's a control mechanism. It means if you do what I say, I'll show you that I care. And the moment you don't do what I say, I will not care. That's not love. You find that relationships a lot, don't you? So you have to abandon all this stuff. Now there's a warning about the Sabbath day. Why? Because they take over the abomination of desolation. If it's the abomination that makes it desolate, he's going to empty out the place of those who actually had faith, which means it's going to usher in falsehoods, which means this is going to be falsehood set up here. Imagine the temple gets built. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, they build that temple, that's a mockery. Do you know why? Because that cancels everything Jesus did. If they have a sacrifice on any altar, that's a mockery. That is blasphemy. I hope you know that. People are clapping their hands like it's a good thing. That is blasphemy, because Jesus was the last sacrifice. There is no other sacrifice after Christ. And if you have one, you void the sacrifice of Christ. That is a mockery, an abomination. And I suspect that this Antichrist figure is going to do just that. And you actually have people, they want the law in. They're sitting among you now. They want the law in. They want the sacrifices to begin. It's almost like they're ready to void what Jesus did the first time. My Lord, can't people see what's happening? It's coming. And it's not coming like Hollywood ever showed it. 22, he says, let me go back. He says, pray that your flight not be in winter, neither on the Sabbath. He says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no nor ever shall be. That's when the greatest turmoil will happen. Now, the book of Daniel specifically states that this great tribulation is going to be in Jerusalem, where they set up the abomination of desolation. That makes for the logical-minded people, I'm not logical-minded, I'll tell you that now, but this makes sense. Because in the book of Daniel, it starts to say that this king over here pushed at the Antichrist. And another king rose up and pushed at him from other nations. So we know that we have at least two nations that got their act together and sought to go against the Antichrist. Now, getting your act together does not mean you're accepted. That's not what it means. It just means they recognize this guy's evil. But to be honest with you, isn't that what happened in World War II with two evil tyrants? Isn't that what happened between Saddam Hussein, Iraq, and Iran? It's not like both of them. It's not like either one of them served the Lord our God through Christ. They do not. But they fight each other. That's what demonic entities do. That's what they love. That's their love. That's them showing the opposite of they care. They go and kill their partner. If anybody is out there and they ever read, if you ever get into some of these stories or read a report about some of these people who actually had demons in them that hopped in the children, right? These children, one child looks at another and they will sit there and tell each other, I have to murder. I have to kill. Let's kill each other. They've heard it. People have heard that. This while the child, right, is doing something impossible, something contorted physically, but also impossible. Parents have seen this. People have been traumatized by this. Somebody says, why children? I'll tell you this. Was Hitler an innocent child? Because the Lord says, you'll know a tree by its fruit. Well, the fruit is not produced until the end. And if the end is the actual fruit of what that person really was, and no matter how cute a child is, you'll not know what that child truly is until he bears fruit. That means a child could be an evil tyrant, demonic, dark force wrapped in the flesh of a child, and you would never know it until they produce fruit. You're not going to know what type of tree it is. It's a very good principle to keep very close to you. It never fails. Somebody says, even our own children? Well, think of it this way. Listen, there's a reason Christ came. There's a reason that no one is going into the kingdom without Christ. It's because everything is tainted. All this Ancestry.com stuff and all these other ancestry DNA pool collectors who have sent all this stuff into Colorado and Montana and Utah, these guys know exactly who carries what DNA. They know. I'm telling you now that for the most, they have not found flesh that's not corrupted. Flesh is corrupted. The body cannot be saved. The soul can, but not the body. You must shed the body. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. These guys have been collecting DNA. They've been hunting, and their hunt is finished. There's no need for the hunt anymore. All that DNA is kept. They know exactly who is who, what is who, and who has potential to be what. Regarding your own children, let me ask you guys something. Do not answer out loud. Don't do it. Don't do it. God is very specific at the beginning, and don't be offended. Please don't be offended, okay? God told us what blesses offspring and what does not. You have a lot of people who date people. They're not bound to one another. They date. It's not like they plan to have children. They just had the children. They had the children during their time of sin. A lot of people, right? They did. We don't know what is coming by way of our spirit to any child. We don't know that. I've seen good people who had bad eggs in their life. Now, they're a bad egg at the moment does not mean they're a bad egg eternally. But I've seen it. But I caution everybody, you don't know the end of the matter until the fruit is born, right? Now, but still, it doesn't matter because either way, God has selected you to care for a life form, a brother or a sister. In actuality, those children are not yours. They belong to the Most High. They're not yours. They came through you. You're given the job to take care of them, to rear them up, to do whatever you can do. And if they resist you, I'm telling you right now, you better say thank God. Because when they resist you, does it not keep you in a certain frame of mind? Because if you slip, they take control. So most of your time is spent not slipping. If it weren't for those children, who would you be? Who would you be? Would you be in the world? Didn't those children slow you down? Didn't they make you think? Didn't they keep you on your toes? Didn't they teach us? They forced us to grow at certain levels of our life. They tried us to the max. God knows exactly what He's doing. The important part is not so much who the children are spiritually, but who you are. That's the important thing. When a child is a child, the burden is on the parents, which means the eyes of the Most High are on the parents, which means they're the ones being gauged at that time. And what's happening is happening for them. That child will eventually mature. They'll have children. Well, I don't know about now because we don't have that much. But anyway, they'll have children. And then they will be evaluated. But God knows what He's doing. Through children, the Lord has forced a growth in us that could come no other way. I'll tell you something. You'll not go through anything unless you need to go through it. And if you go through something, it happens to be the only way you can grow in specific areas of your life, whether that be sickness, whether that be whatever it is. Whatever it is, it's the only way you'll grow. I've noticed in me that there were times when I had ailments, and the worse they were, I found that the more stubborn I was in a specific area. And God broke me through these things. I also don't live my life based on what ifs. I don't do that. Can you imagine what would happen if we thought what if about everything? We would never move anywhere. So don't base your life off what ifs. A key is to simply say thank you, Lord. A key is to continue to walk by faith. The key is to truly love the Lord with all of what you are, and to see those children and render the best care possible to them by the established words of Christ, to raise them up in the way that they should go, and to do your very best at that. We're not here to control the children. People make that mistake because people try to control them, and so they in turn try to control the children. People do many things they shouldn't do. Why? Because their guidance is no longer the Word of God. Their guidance is some psychology book. They believe the world over the living God when it comes to practical things. I've learned to believe God over all things in my life. Man can only tell me how they made a computer, how they made a car, how they made a house, how they made this and that. They cannot tell me about another human being, and certainly nothing about the soul. But I can ask my Father about those things, and He has never failed to guide me in the right direction. We had to be true to who God made us to be, to step into our own calling, and to stand up tall in our own calling, ready to render service in truth for the sake of the kingdom of God. Somebody says, what about unequally yoked? Yeah, well, no, you shouldn't be. If two people get together, say one is a believer and the other one is not, I'll tell you right now, why would they even get together if not for a physical thing? I'm telling you right now, if two people are unequally yoked and they get together, then they were looking at each other with physical eyeballs, and it overrode what they knew was right. Because if they were both blind and they didn't match up that way, they would not get together. You pluck the eyeballs out, how many people would be married today? If nobody could see, how many people would be married? Not too many. Some would still get married because they're joined under genuine reasons. But we all know that most people join by way of lust, and they try to tell everybody differently, but the core of that relationship is lust. And then they spend so much time together, they end up tolerating each other. Then when they get old, they sit and look at each other with contempt. One will try to work, and during the pandemic, there were too many couples who had to spend time at home, and because they did so, they finally got a look at their spouse and they said, I want a divorce. And the divorce rate went off the hook because of that. We all know the truth of that. We shouldn't try to cover that up. We know most people get together because of lust, not because of love. They only use that word love. Oh, I love you, but that means something else. Because when you get old, gravity works, stuff starts hitting the floor. Then what? Where love truly is, none of that matters. It supersedes the flesh. But if it's based on lust, that's not going to work out too well. We all know that. These days of tribulation that everybody's so frightened of, the days of tribulation, the days of the greatest tribulation are going to be in a very specific area. And we know that's Jerusalem. So what happens when this happens in Jerusalem? Well, a lot of people are going to see it. The Bible says that a lot of people are going to sit there and they're going to be in astonishment and this, that, and the other. Now, a lot of people have talked themselves into thinking that whenever this word tribulation is mentioned, people cut themselves off from reading anymore, and they say, well, I'm not going to be here I don't want to go through the great tribulation, so I'm looking for that way of escape. Isn't that what they say? Pray that you're worthy to escape all of these things. That's what they say. That's incorrect. It says, pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and stand before the Son of Man. Now, wait a minute. If anybody is going to stand before the Son of Man, you only stand before him for one reason, not for any other reason, but for one. Jesus said over and over that people were going to stand before him and say what? No, Jesus would tell them what? When they stand before him, he would either say, well done, my good and faithful servant, or he will say, depart from me, you worker of iniquity. So to be ready to stand before the Son of Man means you finished your race. Well, he already told us who's going to finish the race. The ones who care about the kingdom more than their own lives. Those are the ones that finish the race. So in other words, it's almost saying like this. Pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and to stand before the Son of Man. So the condition is this. If you escape the turbulent times of the world, you have to finish your race, because that's the only way you're going to stand before the Son of Man and be accepted. If you don't finish your race, you will not be accepted. If you're worthy to escape all those things, then won't it be natural? Why? Because these are turbulent times which come to do what? God is coming to do what? He's coming against the darkness, the iniquity on the face of the earth. So his wrath, his indignation, all these things are upon the iniquity, the sin, the darkness in the earth. If a Christian is really a Christian, if they're really, really, really a Christian, then by the blood they're cleansed, aren't they? And if they're really cleansed by the blood of the Lamb, then they know they're not appointed to his wrath. And if they're truly cleansed because they believe in what Jesus did, they take no thought of their own life. They're not looking to save their own life. They're looking for the salvation of the lives of others. And if that is the case, they're going to do everything in accordance with the Word of God without any thought of their own life. And they are the ones who take no thought of their own life, but they put the Father's business first. Those are the ones that will be found worthy to escape all those things, because they'll be worthy to stand before the Son of Man and be embraced. Do you think God wants you to stand before him and be condemned? No. So why escape the tribulation only to be condemned when you stand before Christ? That makes no sense. So when you're always talking about standing before him and being accepted, well, the only way that happens is when we love not our lives unto death, and we have the testimony of Jesus Christ. And in order to have that, you have to have experience, some understanding, right? And it must be thoroughly true. But for those who were saying, oh, I can't go through anything, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to align myself with everything God said so I don't have to be in these turbulent days, those are the same individuals that are still mean, still vicious, still argue, still talk under their breath, still murmur and complain about everything. They only appear to be holy, but inside they're ravenous wolves, because they're suppressing anger. They're suppressing the darkness within them. They're not purging it, so they're full of it. When you suppress your anger, it's still there. When you purge anger, it cannot be found in you. So they're deceiving themselves. They won't escape a thing. But for the one who's willing to give it all now, there's no need for them to go through any of that. There's no need for them to see the greater things come upon the earth. Why? Because they exercise faith now. To see the greater things, right? Or to get some people to call upon the name of the Lord. If we're calling upon him now in truth, there's no need for us to go through that. My tribulation is every day. This tribulation won't compare to my everyday things. Most people have spent their lives avoiding all things that are turbulent. For example, there are situations in your life where you have to walk through a very turbulent section of your life to get to that one who is not saved. Somebody who truly needs you, but you can't get to them. Why? Because you have opposition. So you just give up on it. That's not me. My speaking publicly is a hindrance, especially about the Word of God. It's like a barrier. My doing this on the internet is a barrier. That barrier, obviously, it was breached, but it was a big barrier. In other words, I did not choose to do this. If it were my choice, I would not do this. I would do that. Why would I do this? There are a thousand other ways that I was doing things. But listen, somehow I was pulled into this direction. Some people plan stuff like this, right? I did not. This thing just started happening. So it's not like I chose it. And it was not easy to get through. It wasn't. You're going to face things like that too. It could be a person on the side of the street. And before you see the person, your heart's pouring out to the homeless. And you're in the middle of traffic. And you see a person sitting on the side of the highway. Now traffic is all over the place. What do? Would you be that one that would forego your destination, turn all the way around just to go speak to that person? See, that wasn't always me, but that became me. I became the person who would go all out of my way to come right back around, because conviction, right, being true to those things that are within me, having that conviction, I would be the one that would forego my own, whatever benefits my life, I would forego that, take the long way around just to get to this one guy. That's not something admirable, right? That's a life change. Conviction sometimes can get so strong. You guys have been there. You can either fold up on it, try to ignore it, try to go your own direction, talk yourself out of it, or you can be true to it. And if you're true to it, it always has an obstacle connected. There's never a clear path. There has never been a clear path. For me, I have always been given the choice to take the long way around and do it the right way, or to keep going straight and ignore everything so it's convenient. That's my life. That's what it was. I see it 3-7, but that's what it was. All this entire conversation, when you open your eyes past what the world is giving, and I have a challenge for you guys. When you're in the Word, I want you to make a conscious effort to make a distinction as to what the world has taught you to do and what you have gathered by by reading books and other things versus what Jesus has instructed you to do. Make that distinction, because for the most part, when you start doing this, you're going to find out, wait a minute, I don't know what Jesus said. You'll find that you've been operating passively, but by the world's way. Having received no instruction from the Most High, you'll be operating by what the world has established. I know that when you change this, when you change how you go about your life, things change and alter. But then you keep going. With the apostles, do you guys truly know about the thorn in the side of Paul? I heard a lot of people say a lot of weird things about that. The Bible printed what that thorn actually is. A lot of people say, well, Paul had a wife. That's not what it says. It says in Paul's life, he had a messenger of Satan to buffet him. And we know that was true by the one that was preaching the opposite of what Paul was preaching. That's what it was. A messenger of Satan is the one that comes behind you. And it's just like if I were to speak something, if somebody comes behind me, say if I speak something that's just is inspired by the Holy Spirit, right? If I speak and somebody comes behind me to undo everything I did, that's a messenger of Satan that buffets me. But God said he allows this. Paul said, I went to the Lord 3 times to get this thing removed. And the Lord said, my grace is sufficient for thee. Why? God would not remove it. Why? Because if God had removed it, people would not be through Paul. They wouldn't be looking for Christ. They would be looking for Paul. Do you see that? So when you're doing something for the Lord, right? When you're doing something for the Lord and you're doing something that people can actually give you praise on, here it comes. I'm just letting you know. Here it comes. Don't be frightened by it. Don't be discouraged by it. This is the way God operates. That your name will not be elevated above the Lord's name. With the Lord, though, you're going to face obstacles as you're called. Don't be discouraged by those unless you want to be lifted up. See, because somebody else got lifted up. Who got lifted up? If Satan was not lifted up by 1/3 of the angels, 1/3 of the angels would not have fallen with him. He too was lifted up in pride. In his own mindset, after his own thing, he was lifted up. And Satan will try you. Satan will bait and try you every single time to get you to elevate yourselves. Don't fall for it. Satan will challenge you to see if he can get you to step into pride. Don't fall for it. If you believe in Christ, you know what Jesus said. If you know what Jesus said and you're still a believer, then that means you believe in his gospel. When the beast is revealed, the world won't know because it does not know the gospel of Jesus Christ, which means you're going to know the subtleties. You're going to perceive that change in authority. Statements that are being made, ways that are being practiced, you're going to say nope and nope again. That is against the Lord our God. And therein is the key. This Antichrist will stand against Christ. And I'll say it again, if a temple is built and a sacrifice happens, isn't that against Christ? Doesn't that void the cross in a person's life? So there we are. The abomination of desolation is spoken of in Daniel chapter 11. When a Confederate forces go into Jerusalem, they trample it underfoot. And they burn that place and they just simply seize it for 3.5 years. That's the abomination that makes it desolate. It makes it desolate or empty because they're going to empty out everything, start changing things, stop worshiping certain places. All sorts of things will happen. So that will be revealed to the body of Christ. And it's coming. It will happen.